Ipob, indigenous people of Biafra, have been proscribed as a terrorist organization is not a news. And let me tell you, the judges who are in charge of this case are Fulanis. Way back in 2017, September 15, the first justice, who is, should I say fortunately or unfortunately, dead now, is Abdulabu Kafarati. Yeah. This case of indigenous people of Biafra was taken to the court, and without wasting time, it proscribed them as a terrorist organization. If you recall, as of 2017, the issue of insurgency in the north was on the eye. And as at then, Muhammad Buhari was in power. He found it difficult to proscribe those guys as terrorists. What they kept calling them was bandits. They kept calling them revolutionaries. They kept calling them disgruntled nuts. In fact, the likes of Sheikh Gumi said that these are children who are only disgruntled due to bad governance. They shouldn't be called terrorists. They can be called bandits, because they loot. That's it. The Ipob organization members have always before now been so organized, never been violent. But have always been outspoken. This is an organization that is heavily led by Nig.High, a man who has continually seek for the betterment of his people. When the Fulanis came, when they had that incursion, during the period of 2016-2017, immediately, Buhari became the president. We started seeing the Fulani expansion agenda quicken, and of course enabled. It came with the rural urban grazing areas, whereby they said there will be some routes even into your own farmland, that the Fulanis who rear the cattle, we know that it is Fulani that rear cattle, right? Predominantly that is their job, just as spare parts and importation has been known to be the Igbo business. Rearing of livestock has been what? And collectively agreed to be a Fulani thing over the years. Now, Buhari came in and said, let us have Ruga. Where these guys will have a grazing route, even if their grazing route pass through your tomato farm, you will allow them to pass. In my own fatherland. This is south, not north. So that was the cause of these guys now invading the southeast farms. We saw it in Enugu, we saw it in Ebonyi, we saw it in some parts of Abia and Imo State. They started attacking farmers. These are unarmed people. And that led to the outcry of the Nig.High, who so much loved his people, and said, why should I be quiet? He called on to the president. The president said they work on it. But again, the killings never stopped. It never ceased. But instead, it kept increasing. They waited 6 months, nothing. 1 year, nothing. If you were the one in the face of trouble and tribulations and death, would you be quiet and watch yourself without fighting back? This pushed them to create what we call the Eastern Security Network. Because of such, they started fighting back and started chasing these invaders back to their place of abode. The Fulanis were now being sent back to Samfara. And it was so loud that they became overwhelmed by the ESN. This was what made Buhari and of course his Fulani oligarchs to push that Ipob, Nig.High, should be placed on terrorism watch list. They caught up with him in 20-something, but before then they already proscribed Ipob as a terrorist organization by Fulani man. The Igbos appealed this unjust labeling, but to I'm not going to say I'm surprised. Just some hours ago, the same Fulani judge, or should I say a Fulani judge from the same part, a Fulani man, which I did not expect to say otherwise, said that he insists that these Ipob guys are terrorists. The name of that person is Hama Barka. And guess the first person to celebrate it? The first aide of Buhari. An aide is the spokesperson of Buhari, Bashir Ahmed. Oh, these are all signals. These are all indications, and they are highly instructive. How the Igbos are aggressively hated by the Fulanis. In fact, how the Igbos are intentionally sidelined and marginalized by Buhari, passed down to Tinubu. There's this notion that the Igbos, if allowed, want to dominate. Ahmadu Bello was one that said it. The Sardauna, their own, Igbos. He said that the Igbos are too domineering, the Igbos are too overreaching, the Igbos are too greedy. I mean, these were the words. But he never said that the Igbos are hardworking. He never said the Igbos were, very educative. He never said that the Igbos will achieve this feat through meritocracy. I mean, majority of them. I understand that some of them commit illegality. And show me a tribe without a sin, then you can be the first to throw the stone. We have such people in the north. We have so many of them who are scams. Look at their politicians. The politicians are the highest corrupt politician in the whole of Nigeria. They have had their chance to rule this country for over 45 years out of 64 years of our independence. Nothing to show for in the north. They are the ones that have looted and drank the oil, the resources of this nation up. Look at the likes of Babangida, Abacha and Co. Now, they are not without sin, but they will be quickened to celebrate the proscription of Ipob as terrorist organization. Today, it took the United Nations intervention for Nigeria to proscribe the Boko Haram's terrorists. It was until when the European Union saw the wanton, unabated attacks in the Middle Belt, that the United Nations now flagged them that these guys, they are terrorists. No sugarcoating. When they kept on attacking the Bokos, the people of Bokos, the Chikums, the Lantan, just taking over their land, renaming it Haba. The United Nations said, oh, no. Buhari, those guys are not bandits. That is not the right, that is not their right pronouns. Those guys are working with ISWAP. You cannot say they are non-terrorists. Just until then, that Buhari, reluctantly say, okay. Some of them are not. You can imagine. He said some of them. So you can see the partiality. These are all intention of Fulani, because they know that the loudest voice and the people who have understood their schemes, because the Yoruba in their majority right now still do not see the deceptive nature of the Fulanis, despite being one of the, because the Yorubas have actually been through and they've experienced the high-handedness of the Fulanis in the law. Okay? Despite being a victim of the Fulani shenanigans. Yet, because of religion, so many Yorubas in the Oyo North, in Ilorin, in Osun North, the likes of Ede Iwo, will still come out and defend this Fulani agenda, which is to Fulanize and Islamize Nigeria. Okay? They will say that, no, we can live with the Fulani. We are not the same people. We do not have the same belief system. Some will live and die for religion. Period. And I think we know such people. We know them. The Yorubas are just, liberal, open-hearted. Provided you are in my land, what I want you is prosper. Nothing more, nothing less. I do not really care whether you are a Muslim or a Christian. But you see the Fulanis, when you begin to prosper in their land, they begin to question your religion. Go and ask the big Igbo men in the north. They will be forced to dress like one of them. Yes. Secondly, they cannot go there and start having their traditional anniversaries openly. Who dare them? Who got you? You want to go to the north and start having your New Year festival, start having your masquerade? I mean, just last year we saw the Igbos brought one of the biggest masquerade from the Enugu. They brought it down here to Lagos. No, I mean, yes, there were some little backlash, but this event still held. You can't do that in the north. Listen, they will burn everything there. They'll burn it into ashes. You know why? Because they want to die for their religion. They want to kill for their religion. So this is now clear. The Fulanis have seen that these Igbos now, they know our scope. And we will have to do everything possible to just silence them. Otherwise, if they keep speaking, they will awaken the middle belt. They will awaken the sleeping Yorubas. And by that, we will now become powerless. Let us do everything to silence them so that they can be quiet. When they are quiet, we will have our way. When they are quiet, we will always remain in power politically. And then when they are quiet, we will continue to convince more Yoruba to convert to Islam. And before you know it, we will penetrate their land with Sharia. And when we penetrate their land with Sharia, we know that the king of the Sharia constitution is a Fulani king. And before you know it, this man will start ordering for the replacement of some emirs based on incompetency, based on lack of pedigree. And before you know it, all the kingships, all the traditional kings will be deposed. And before you know, we will start replacing them with the emirs, just as we have in Ilorin. The Igbos have seen this, but the Yorubas have not in their majority seen this, because the Yorubas have been polarized, divided. The handwork of the Fulanis. And this is one of the deals, one of the conditions they gave to the president of the day. If we will support you, there will be Islamic incursion in the southwest. And he's looking away. Oh yes, the president cannot say he is not aware of this illegal incursion of the caliphate. The caliphate is writing a letter of warning to the governors from Sokoto. What does that tell you? He wrote it there, not only to the southwest governors, he even directed it to all the southern governors. Uzodinma, Alex Soti. He told them emphatically that the constitution that my forefathers, the Ahmadu Bello, wrote was Sharia law was there. Oh, listen, we underrate these guys. They are very wise. They made sure that Sharia law was recognized in that constitution. Did you see anything that has to do with Mammon or Christian laws? Today, if we say we want to restructure Nigeria, and in that, in that premise, let us either remove Sharia or include Mammon. You see the opera. That opera will be the loudest. When the politicians steal them dry, they will not speak up. But just let us get to that stage in this country where a president that is as bold as Showore comes out and says, listen, Nigeria must have a new constitution, and the constitution must be a representation of the people, a collective referendum. That constitution, if it's going to recognize Sharia, it should recognize the Mammon laws, the laws of the Moses, as in the Christian, as in the Bible. Or if we know we don't have such dichotomy, we would also have the traditional laws. Those that practice their traditional worship, whether they are in Zamfara, when they are going with their ritual, no bagger, nobody should attack them. If you attack them, you are going to jail. Oh God, the kind of opera will happen for this country will be louder than World War I. You know why? because the Fulanis had that very intelligent negotiation with our past leaders from the south. There's Awolowo and Azikwe, who are not intelligent enough to understand that the most powerful tool an imperialist use above his subject is religion. Yeah, the most powerful tool an imperialist uses is what? The power of religion. Because the power of religion has that effect to galvanize and control people's mind. And you control the mind, you control the wish and actions of the people. So imagine a situation whereby we say, we want to have a constitutional reform. Right from the Senate, well, let us listen to more conversations from other people. Bye for now.
Because we were deceived after the events that took place in the history. In today's Nigeria, there's one of your one pastor brothers from the West that used to talk about these things in his churches. Nigeria is skewed to favor a certain kind of people. And until that justice is achieved, many of us will keep on speaking grammar to defend things that are even hurting us, or even celebrate things that will later hurt us just because it's hurting someone today. So, in explanation to all this, now, while asking more questions, I have to study even religion to some extent. I'm not trying to hate anyone or hate anything, but when we see imperialism coming through any guise, it is our responsibility to say no. As a Christian, you can't expect me to believe in everything that a pastor told me. And as a Muslim, I don't expect you to believe everything your imam tells you, because that person also is a human being that has interests. Now, when you go through the interests, you will know the one that works against you and say no, and the one that works for you and say yes. Now, going by the issues in Nigeria, I have looked at it. I have Yoruba friends, I have Hausa friends, I have Muslims friends. Even there is one of the most loyal person I've had when I was the leader of a union was a Muslim, and he's a Yoruba person. His loyalty was intact. He started making me to start asking questions. Now, what I now realize is this: with due respect to my Yoruba friends and Muslim friends, I noticed something about Islam. Islam is a religion that tends to request absolute loyalty to the religion first before where you come from or your blood. And that is the reason why many people who understood these things, or some of us who never understood this, maybe as a Christian, they will tell you love your neighbor as yourself. And you don't have to put a boundary on who your neighbor is. But in Islam, there are boundaries to who a neighbor can be and the circumstances thereof that will make it to apply. So these are the differences. And we now go to think that, assume and presume that everybody reason and think like us. No. In Islam, political power is merged with religious power. That is why the Sultan of Sokoto, or anywhere you hear Emir, or let me say culture and religion join together, and perhaps political, they also merge it, they propagate it and they preach it. That is why anywhere you have an Emir, he's not just a traditional ruler. If anybody in a position of any authority is a Muslim, he is not just a traditional ruler, he's an Islamic leader. And he takes that position and advance the Islamic interest even beyond the people's interest, if given the opportunity. Now, when we come to our own side, that we are non-Muslims, we have religious leaders who are just religious leaders that didn't go and have an incursion into culture and perhaps politics. So, with this perspective, the Muslim is already having a plan, they have a kind of an arrangement or a culture of discussing politics and planning it very well, as their own culture in religion or as their teaching in religion supports that. But when you come to Christianity,